The sun was setting over the dusty plains, painting everything in shades of gold and amber. When she first saw him, he was the kind of man people whispered about, tall, rugged, with a presence that made the air feel heavier around him. A cowboy through and through, his reputation for being untamed and unyielding preceded him wherever he went. And yet, there she was, fearless, daring, and completely unafraid. "I'm too big for you," he warned, his voice low and cautious, almost a challenge in itself. Most people would have taken a step back, maybe even laughed it off. But she didn't. With a steady gaze and a mischievous smile, she closed the distance and whispered, "Try me anyway." In that moment, the tension was electric, a battle of wills that neither wanted to lose. There was something about the way she moved, confident and unapologetic, that made him pause. And for the first time, doubt crept into his certainty. Who was this woman who didn't flinch, who didn't back down, even when faced with someone as formidable as him? And why did he feel an unfamiliar pull to meet her challenge head on? As the wind swept across the open plains, the stage was set for a story of bold choices, daring hearts, and a tension that could ignite at any moment. Little did they know, what started as a playful warning was only the beginning, and what happened next would change everything between them if either of them could handle it. The question now hangs in the air: who will give in first, and what will be left standing when the dust settles? He studied her carefully, noticing the spark in her eyes that mirrored the fire of the setting sun. She wasn't like the others he'd met on the ranch or in town. Most people either admired him from a distance or tried to impress him with empty words, but her confidence was different, grounded, fearless, and unapologetic. It made him uneasy in a way he hadn't felt before. She had grown up on the outskirts of town, always chasing freedom and adventure, never content to stay in one place for too long. Rumor had it she had a streak of rebellion, a habit of testing boundaries wherever she went. Maybe that was why she had dared to challenge him so openly, so boldly. He could feel the curiosity building, like a storm about to break, and it made him wonder what she was really capable of. The cowboy tightened his grip on his hat. A nervous tick he thought no one noticed, but she did. She could read him like an open book, understanding the balance of pride and caution that defined him. There was more beneath that rough exterior, a side he never showed anyone. She wanted to see it, and something told him she might. Around them, the ranch seemed to hold its breath. The horses shuffled nervously in their stalls, and the wind carried a quiet whisper across the open plains. Every glance, every word, felt loaded with possibility and danger, and the tension between them was impossible to ignore. Neither of them realized just how far this encounter could go or how much it might change both of them. The question wasn't just who would give in first, but what consequences awaited once the line was crossed. Days passed, but neither of them could shake the memory of that first confrontation. He tried to bury it under work repairing fences, checking the livestock, riding through the plains, but her challenge lingered in his mind, persistent and teasing. She, on the other hand, seemed to appear wherever he went, intentionally or by chance, her presence a constant reminder that the ordinary rules didn't apply when she was around. The townspeople started noticing it too. Whispers followed them at the general store and the saloon. "She's trouble," they said. "He's never met anyone like her." But neither of them cared about the gossip. What mattered was the unspoken tension between them, a magnetic pull that neither fully understood but both couldn't ignore. There were small tests too. She would take on the hardest chores on the ranch, often outdoing him without even trying, just to see his reaction. He would respond with quiet resistance, refusing to show how impressed or unsettled he truly was. Every glance, every word, every shared silence was layered with unspoken challenges. Beneath the surface, other conflicts brewed. He had a reputation to maintain, a life defined by rules and expectations that didn't leave much room for risk. She, meanwhile, carried secrets of her own moments from her past that had shaped her daring spirit and her unwillingness to back down. Both were walking into uncharted territory, testing boundaries not just with each other, but within themselves. And yet, despite the tension, neither could ignore the growing curiosity and connection. Every encounter left more questions than answers, and every shared moment hinted at something neither was ready to name. The real question was no longer who would give in first. It was whether either of them could survive the storm they had unknowingly started. The days on the ranch had grown hotter, and so had the tension between them. Every look, every brush of hands while passing tools, seemed charged with a silent dare. He could feel it in his chest, a pull he couldn't ignore. A challenge that tested not only his patience but his sense of control. She moved through the world with a fearless ease, daring him without words. And he was both irritated and intrigued by it. One evening, as the sun dipped low behind the hills, they found themselves alone near the corral. The air was thick, carrying the scent of hay and dust, and even the horses seemed to sense the intensity between them. He tried to focus on his work, tightening the gate, but she leaned against the post, eyes locked on him. Her expression teasing yet serious. "You're not as untouchable as you think," she said quietly. It was a statement, a challenge, and a warning all at once. He straightened, feeling the old stubborn pride mixed with something unfamiliar, an excitement he hadn't felt in years. He wanted to push back, to show her he could handle anything. yet every instinct warned him to be careful. Around them, the ranch seemed to shrink, the world narrowing until it was just the two of them, circling each other like wary predators. Small sparks had grown into a storm, and the tension was about to hit its peak. Every decision, every word, every glance had led to this moment. Neither knew who would blink first, or what would happen if they didn't. And in that charged silence, the unspoken question hung between them. Who would claim the next move on? What would it cost them both? Just as the tension between them reached a nearly unbearable point, a sudden sound from the edge of the ranch broke the fragile silence. A rider appeared, kicking up dust in the fading sunlight, and with him came news that changed everything. A neighboring ranch had reported stolen horses, and the trail pointed straight toward their land. His instincts snapped into action, the calm control he had been struggling to maintain replaced by urgency and concern. She stepped closer, sensing the shift in him, her playful defiance replaced by a sharp focus. "We're going to have to work together," she said, her voice low but steady. It was the first time she had spoken to him without the teasing edge, and it sent a jolt through him. Suddenly, the game between them felt heavier, more complicated, and infinitely more dangerous. As they rode out to investigate, every glance exchanged carried a mix of challenge and something deeper, fear, and the undeniable pull that neither could deny. The stakes had shifted from a personal dare to a real test of skill, courage, and even loyalty. He realized she wasn't just testing him anymore. She was proving herself in a world that was suddenly unpredictable and risky. The sun dipped behind the hills as shadows stretched long across the plains, mirroring the uncertainty that hung between them. Each moment brought a new complication, and the possibility of failure loomed large. The unspoken question was no longer about who would give in first, but whether they could survive the challenges that were closing in, and whether the tension between them could withstand the storm that was coming. The chase across the plains had pushed them both to their limits. Dust clung to their clothes, and sweat burned in their eyes, but neither slowed. He could feel her presence beside him, a steady force that matched his own grit and determination. The stolen horses were close, and the trail led them to a narrow canyon where the bandits had cornered themselves. Unaware of the duo closing in, he signaled her, and for the first time, they moved in complete sync. Years of unspoken challenges, teasing, and tension had built a strange but undeniable connection between them. Together, they outsmarted the thieves, cutting off escape routes and rounding up the stolen horses with precision. It was a test of skill, patience, and courage. And when the dust finally settled, victory felt earned and electrifying. As they rode back to the ranch, adrenaline still coursing through their veins, he looked at her differently. The playful defiance that had first drawn him in was still there, but now it was tempered with respect and admiration. She had met every challenge he threw, and in doing so, had shown a strength he couldn't ignore. He realized that the stakes had never been just about pride or daring, it had been about trust, partnership, and something neither had expected to find. Just as they reached the corral, a new rider appeared in the distance, silhouetted against the setting sun. Recognition hit him like a shock. Someone from her past, a figure tied to secrets she had never shared, was coming straight toward them. The tension between them wasn't over. If anything, it had only deepened, and now, with new stakes in play, the question remained. Could their newfound bonds survive the challenges that were just beginning? The rider from her past slowed as they neared the ranch, and she dismounted carefully, her eyes steady but wary. He stayed close, hand hovering near hers, a silent offer of support. As the newcomer approached, it became clear that whatever tension had followed her here was more about unfinished business than danger. She confronted the figure calmly, revealing a strength and confidence that had drawn him to her from the start. With the situation resolved, she turned back to him, a small, triumphant smile playing at the corner of her lips. He realized that the challenge she had thrown at him weeks ago had been more than a dare. It had been a way to test both of them, to see if they could handle danger, tension, and trust all at once. And now, standing side by side, they had proven that they could. The sun finally dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the plains. The ranch was quiet again. The horses settled, and the wind carried a sense of calm that had been missing for weeks. They rode back slowly, sharing stories and laughter, the bond between them stronger than ever. In the end, the story wasn't just about daring challenges or stolen horses. It was about courage, trust, and the unexpected ways people can find strength in one another. Sometimes the greatest tests aren't about size or strength, but about heart and resilience. And as they rode together across the open plains, one thing was certain: whatever challenges came next, they would face them together, ready for whatever adventure lay ahead.